All right, welcome back to episode 4 of the Building a Playbook series. I'm your host Terry. Happy Thanksgiving, happy holidays, all that to everybody. Hope you are getting a chance to spend it with family and enjoy some time off, hopefully, and some good food. So we're jumping back into this episode 4. We're gonna get into meat and potatoes and everything, and start getting into some plays. So today we're gonna be doing the run game. Episode 1, we talked about the philosophy. 2, we talked about formations, and 3, we talked about motions and shifts. Excuse me. Also, just want to say it's the winter season, so please forgive all the coughs and sniffles and whatnot. This is a lot of good information to get into, so I doubt I'm able to get through the whole episode without the little bit of coughing here and there as it already started. So apologize in advance. All right, so we're going to be looking at the core run. Like I said before, volume in terms of the level of football increases as you go up. And so for this, I think really on any level, you want to focus on your core runs. How many those are, that can differ. But for me, I want to say about 3 to 4 core runs like that you should be practicing every day. The lineman should know inside and out. The receiver should know. That's even better. Everybody should understand those angles. They should understand it, how to block it against any type of set. Like every week you might add something or you might do something specific for a team, all those different things, but you should have your core run package that you should be able to get to multiple times a game, and you should be running multiple times a game. So we're going to be looking at those, but I'm definitely going to show you it's not a giant menu of runs, but we're going to get through most of those. So starting off, we got the zone series. So the zone series is actually about 5 plays. Really, you can look at inside, outside zone, but off of those, or at least off of inside zone, we got at least 3 more plays. So we'll talk about that. So I talked about inside zone before. And so refresher for those who have heard it, and for those that haven't, this might be new, but for me, again, the way I run it, not to say that this is universal. So for other people, you might have different teaching points, but this is the way I run it. So we run inside zone to the open B gap. The aiming point is the open B gap, and then the cutback is the backside A gap. So we're running inside zone, the coaching point. So right now we'll be running zone left. The lineman, essentially, you're going to step to your left. You're going to make a zone step to your left, and then you're going to block the next threat. And so to the left of this tackle will be that defensive end. To the left of this guard would be that linebacker. To the left of the center would be the 1 tech. From this guard, it would be that linebacker and the 3 tech here, leaving the backside end open. So now, again, this not really stationary. It's, if you teach it right, it's about, again, what's the threat, not who's the man. Because let's say for whatever reason they did some type of stunt where they were blitzing and you got that. Well, that's perfectly fine. If you take your zone step and you see that linebacker vacate and someone's trying to cross your face, you pick them up. That's your threat. Same thing for the center. So that should be pretty easy. Because you're really in a zone combo. I mean, you could get something wild, but for the most part, it'll be something between, sorry, I put that in the wrong place. It'll be something between these two. Because in a typical combo, we'll talk about that later, that's going to be different where you secure the first level, go to the next level. In the zone, we're keeping everything on the move because we want the defense to continue to flow. because we want them to either uh, we want them to either stutter and give us the open B gap, or we want them to flow hard so we can cut back and get to the A gap. So what that means is that if you're teaching this correctly, now it's a little different because as if you watch the last few episodes, I have a wider splits between the center and guard, so it's a little bit more space, but idea is the same. You can zone step, flat step to your left, get some width, and then get on your track and still post your inside hand to make sure you're chipping or helping on any threat here. So if you are doing it correctly and you zone step, you get your depth, then you get on, or not your depth, your whip, and then you get on track, because you're not like dropping your head and running full speed. You're still moving at a balanced pace. So you get your step and you get on track. You leave your inside hand to post, and then you feel that guy trying to overtake. Then you just pick him up, and then as the center, once you see your guy leave, you should be looking for the next threat. So if that linebacker comes down, then you pick him up. So it doesn't really matter if they stunt, blitz, or anything like that. If the line understands the concept, then you'll be fine, because it's not really picking out a man. Again, it's about threats. So you take the zone step to the left, you get on the path, and then you take the threat. Now, most times it will end up looking like that. Let me move that there so that angle's better. It will end up looking like that, where, okay, in this front, we're going to probably end up going to the linebacker. Center's probably got to get over and get this one technique. And really a one tech is probably going to be closer to him. But still, if we did get something weird, they'll be able to pick that up. All right. I was going to say something, but I can't remember it. All right. So that's the aiming point for the open B gap. And that's kind of what the lineman assignments are going to be. For the P back, what I'm doing is we're letting him lead on the edge. So we got an extra blocker to help us. And so if, say, that defensive end does a good job in keeping the outside, then the P back is just going to hit first threat. So if he sees that end, or the tackle struggling with that end, he's going to chip on that end and then move to the next threat. If this guy beats our slot, P-back's there. If he's blocked, then he's blocked. P-back's up to the third level, or maybe he catches a linebacker. Either way, so we got an extra blocker here. And then, again, our aiming point is through the open B gap. And then we say the backside A because if all these guys flow, let's say they flow heavy, even if he flows heavy, the natural cutback is going to be the backside A gap. And we've seen that plenty of times in the league where, essentially they flow really hard, try to get to the edge, and then that backside A gap is wide open, and we got a huge run. So we've seen that before. So that's inside zone, really. And again, we can get to this out of different formations. Obviously, the split backfield. If we're in our all formation, it's easy for him to get out there as well. Trips, even easier for him to get out there. Probably wouldn't do this out of I formation. We absolutely could get a little misdirection. It would depend on the timing. We're kind of tight here. And if I did, I probably would just have the quarterback back up and give some more space to the P back. But for the most part, probably wouldn't run it out of I formation. But we could if we wanted to. So that's inside zone. Off of inside zone, you got split zone. And if I mentioned this again, 90% of the league's runs are not 90, but probably 80% of the league's runs are inside zone. And this is probably the most common thing you'll see. And then off of that is split zone. So with split zone, the line blocks the same way, but the P back comes across the flow and blocks the backside edge. And so this is done for a couple reasons. Misdirection, getting the linebackers, the safeties, whoever, getting their eyes, if they're undisciplined, getting their eyes to look at something else. Obviously for the backside end, especially if you run an inside zone and that end is doing a good job of crashing all day, this is a good way to change the pace, give a easy shot for the P-back to take out the end, and you can do that. What this also does is set up one of the more popular play actions, even though it's out of, well, it doesn't have to be under center, but a lot of times it's under center because the Rams made it really popular. But this sets up the leak, where you can play action that handoff, and then it looks like split zone, but then the P-back goes out into a route into the flat. So, and then you run like a flood concept. So we've seen that play a lot, but that's set up again off of this. So you can set up a play action. You can really misdirect the defense, and you can get an easy shot at the DN. So that's split zone, and again, it's a number of reasons of why we want to run that. So similar to split zone, actually, I'm gonna not go there yet. In split zone, we could get to that out of the I formation if we want. In the I formation, it'll be a little more over. Sorry, those details bug me. So split zone is a little easier if we get to it from the I formation, then he just comes across, gets the end, whatever. Now, the other thing we have is zone read. So as you see, we leave the backside end open on inside zone, but we're not really reading. We're going to have the same handoff look, but we're not reading that DN. And so there's no real, I want to give that ball off. But if we call a zone read, then we're actually running an option play, and there's a chance that the quarterback is going to keep this and take it to the outside if that DN crashes. So hopefully everybody knows the zone read play. So that's another variation off of inside zone. The third one would be lead. So zone read lead, and that means the P-back is leading for the quarterback. So he's going to obviously skip the defensive end. Actually, let me use the arc. He's going to skip the defensive end, and he's going to go block the first threat outside of the defensive end. Now, the defensive end might stay. That's fine. And then we just hand the ball off. But if he crashes and the quarterback keeps it, he's going to have a lead blocker. That's called Y lead a lot of times. You'll see it in football or Madden or NCAA or whatever the new game is called. You'll see it called Y lead, and the P-back is essentially our Y. So, and we could get to that from anywhere. So from I formation, we could even get it from our off formation, because then if you do that, what does it look like? Looks like split. Looks like split. And so that DN, especially if you've been running split a lot, this is a good change up. So he might be ready for that crack back. You go right around him, and then we got a lead block. So there we go. Yeah, I think the only one I might not do it out of is the split backfield, because then he has to go around and wait for the running back to clear. So the timing might not be great, but you still could do it from there. But those are kind of the variations off of that. So yeah, you got inside zone, you got split zone, you got zone read, and you got zone read lead. And that's that. So the other one in the zone series, the last one is outside zone. So outside zone, oh, that's what I forgot to say. So inside zone, the aiming points would be what I want my lineman to get, if possible. I wanted him to get his play side leg, or his left leg in this case, to split this defender. You want your left hand, play side hand, to be in the sternum, right in the shoulder pads in the middle. And then you want to get your right hand on his actual shoulder. If you could get under the pad, whatever. Under the armpit is great too. That's probably the best way, because this isn't a base block where you're just blocking the guy straight up and trying to drive him downfield. You're trying to drive him horizontally, not vertically. So if you get your hand in the sternum and in the armpit, that's going to be a good base of control where you can run your feet and then you can push this guy, because that's what we want. We want these defenders to slide that way to the zone to create cutback lanes. Again, that's what zone is. It's a two-way go. If you do a read option, it's a three-way go. But that's what it is. Zone is darn near option run, because if, again, the defenders can't get to the spot, then we're going to take it. If they overreact to the spot, we're going to cut back. So that's the aiming point. You're not really trying to reach block. You're trying to get into the middle of them so you can drive them through the zone. Outside zone is the opposite. In outside zone, we do want to capture the outside shoulder. That is going to be essentially the aiming point. Almost kind of like a reach block. So with the outside zone, you will be, you're not taking a zone step. You are more turning your shoulders and getting on this path, and you're going to be trying to take a reach step. So again, for this tackle, I'm trying to get to the end's outside shoulder, so then I can pin him, because the aiming point is outside the tackle into the C gap. So what I would tell my lineman, and also if we're running outside zone again, alignment kind of tells you we'd be smart to cheat up and be a little more flat so that we could come across here. But anyway, what I'm telling my lineman, look, if you get in the outside zone, especially if it's the open beat. Now, that's one thing I forgot to mention. It can go to the open B gap or the open A gap. It doesn't matter. I would probably try to run it to the open A gap, because what I want, the natural cutback is going to be the backside B gap, because once all these people get to moving pretty fast and everybody flows, these gaps are going to shift, and what probably looks like the A gap but really is the backside B gap, that's going to be your cutback. So we don't have to do this, but I would. So in this scenario, for my tackle, you got an inside threat here. So if you get on your outside zone to the left and this DN crashes inside, what I would tell him to do is just turn and pin him. Pin him, because then you're going to help the guard get his guy. And plus, we captured the edge. That edge is wide open. So that's what I would tell him to do. Same thing with this guard. Hey, look, now he doesn't have a backside threat. So he could, if this 3-tech crashes, he could just pass it off to the center and then work his way up to the linebacker. But it depends. But like, again, I would say I would be perfectly fine. Same thing if let's say this linebacker tried to crash here. If this guard makes contact with that linebacker, turns and pin him, I'm fine with that, because that's essentially what we're trying to do in outside zone. We're trying to get to your outside shoulder and pin you to the inside of the play so we can get out here. So that aiming point is going to be different. Now you definitely could do read off of outside zone. That's not really what I plan on doing. It's just not really. I mean, I could, but it's not really something that I'm looking to do. But it will depend. I mean, if I got in outside zone, it is pretty potential. It's a high probability that this end will just run flat and go far. So we could. But right now, I mean, all I have to do is add a tag to it, so we could definitely read that in. But right now, that's not necessarily what I'm planning to do. But we could always add that. And the same thing as inside zone. The P-back's job is going to be leading out on the perimeter. so that we got an extra blocker going out there. So that's our outside zone, inside zone series. Um, One thing I'll say, I don't really need to do all that. As far as receiver blocking, I just keep it simple, kind of what I learned. If this guy is pressed or within 5 yards in kind of press position, um, then you want to run him off. So just fade ball, dummy route, try to get him off. If he's off 5 yards or whatever, then you're going to stalk block. And a stalk block is, you see it all the time. I would compare it to basketball, like playing one-on-one defense. Um, Especially like, I mean, it's in reverse because they're not coming up the court, but you're not running directly at him. You're approaching him balanced in a slow defensive position so that you can react to wherever that defender goes. So wherever he goes is fine, but you're going to approach him at a deliberate pace until you make contact. But you don't want to run at him because you don't want him to dodge you. So that's why it's called a stalk block. So you're going to approach, and whenever he tries to trigger, you make contact with him. The slot is going to be a little different because of our formations. I'm going to always want the slot to get up there and make a cutoff block at least. And so this is, again, why it's important for the receivers to understand the run game and the angles. So if we're running inside zone, we're trying to get here, then I want that slot to get to the outside or the inside shoulder of the defender. If we're running outside zone, then I want him to get to the outside shoulder of the defender. And then you got to trust that everybody else makes their blocks. And again, outside shoulder, shield them off, try to give us this perimeter. And then again, that's one good thing about having the P back. A lot of times you'll have an extra blocker. So, you know, the slot might not always be the biggest guy, the strongest guy, the best blocker. So P back could help pick that up. But that's kind of that. All right, so moving on. Now we're going. Now this is the sauce, man. This the inside sauce right here. To be honest with you, I don't love giving this away, but I'm gonna do it for y'all. So this is Power G, and this is the way I run Power G, and I really like it. And I've talked about it with some people. I've showed it to some coaches and stuff, but I've yet to really see anyone adopt this, which is perfect. But now I'm putting it out there for all to see, so we'll see how it goes. All right, so Power G. Power, we're running to, I got this backwards. Let me see. There we go. So Power G, we're going to run to the open B gap. All right. Actually, let's move this back. Shouldn't really matter, but we'll just go with a cover 4 look. So we're going to run to the open B gap. All right. Power G is when we pull the backside guard through the open B gap. So what are we going to do? So the typical Power G is kick out, everybody else block back. And that's essentially what we're going to do. So the play side guard, he's going to block back to the inside threat, either 0, whatever it is. In this case, it's a 1 tech. The center is going to block back, and that'll be to the 3 tech. And then we're going to pull our backside guard through the B gap. Now, the tackles. So you could just, again, block back and kick out this DN. Some people don't, and it depends. And we're going to do this a couple different ways. Actually, I don't want to do this out of the I formation. So let's do this out of split back. So there's a couple different ways we could do this. I haven't really made my decision on kind of how I want to do it, but I got an idea. So again, we could kick him out. Um, Actually, no, I'm thinking of something else. My backside, yes, I do have my backside rules. My backside is seal and wheel. So seal and wheel, essentially, he's going to take a step towards the center, and then he's going to turn his face towards his sideline. So if you could imagine that seal and wheel, you're going to step in, close down the space, and then you're going to turn and put your back to the play so you can catch anything here. So if we seal and wheel correctly, especially with our extra space, if we got a really good tackle, we could disrupt this 3 tech, get a center, a better angle, and of course we could cut off the backside end. All right. So I I love a seal and wheel. It's almost like a pass set as well. And when as a DN you see pass set, then you want to pass rush up field, which is perfectly fine. That takes them right out of the play, and we don't have to do anything. So seal and wheel on the backside is one of my favorites. I think some people might call it a fan block, call it different things, whatever. All right. Now here's the difference. The play side tackle. So typically in power, you're going to kick this DN out. If you got a tight end, you might double team, whatever. What I like to do is I like to arc release. So the teaching point for here, the aiming point, what I tell the tackle is you're essentially trying to get around his outside shoulder. Like an arc release, I mean really almost turning like you're about to go run a screen on the corner. You want to turn and get as vertical as possible or as wide and vertical as possible and get to the next level defender. That should be your aiming point. So here might be the center, might be the safety, nickel, whoever. That should be the aiming point for the tackle. You want to out leverage this DN, and you don't really want to block him. You want to get around him. So why do we do that? We do that because, as again, coming from your knowledge of defense and offense, as a defensive end, you're going to be taught that if you're going to read that as a reach block. And if somebody's trying to block your outside shoulder, you got to keep your outside shoulder free to do what? What is it called, people? Set the edge. So we want to set the edge. We don't want this guy to get outside. So this DN, if he's doing his job, naturally he's going to fight. He's going to fight to maintain outside leverage and stay outside of that tackle. What does he do? Open up a giant gap in the B gap. So we already got the puller coming through, but now we have a huge amount of space. Now, if he doesn't do his job, if it's a crash, some type of stunt, or if he's just bad at his job and he lets the tackle go and he slams inside, then guess what? Now we got a lead blocker out here on the edge, wide open. So now I know how that looks. He won't really come through here because he can't come through the tackle. So it'll be more of going around him. And again, huge space. Now, oops, wrong guy. To add to that, we got the P-back. So the P-back's job is going to be come off the heels of the tackle. So essentially what's going to happen is that if this DN fights inside or he allows the tackle to get outside of him and he comes up, the P-back's got to kick him out. I knew it was going to do that. Oh no. Let's see if I can get my X back. Oh well, we're not going to play this game. So P-back's going to kick him out. If the DN fights to the outside and widens himself like we want, Then the P back is now essentially a second lead blocker with that pull, and we just go up here and we got free reign to knock anybody out. Because as you already saw, the rest of the line is staying on the line, so we got no second level blockers. So the pull is going to be a second level blocker, and then the P back will be another second level blocker from that position too. So that's the way that I run Power G, and we could get to this. Split back is a good one. We could still get to this from our off formation. Again, really puts the P back in an even better angle. He just has to slow play it a little more and then more of a delay. But then we could go from here. Out of I formation, again, I don't necessarily know that I want to run it out of I formation, but we could. We definitely could if we wanted to, and then bring him across. That would look more like a counter, and I don't know if I like the timing, but I really like it out of split, and I like it out of off. So there's that. Let me see. Get that X there. Doesn't matter because we're about to move on from that anyway. So yeah, that's Power G. Yeah, that's Power G. All right, so let's move to our last one. So we got Power G, inside outside zone, and the variations off of that, split zone read and all that. So the next one would be ISO. ISO, I think, very self-explanatory. ISO is just really one-on-one blocks. Some of them be double team, it'll depend. So we run ISO. We can run it to wherever we want. We can run it to the open B gap. We can run it to the open A gap. Now, again, the way we kind of position ourselves in terms of the formation, it lends it to an A gap because our A gaps are a little more wide and our 3 technique is going to be a little further away from us because of our offensive line splits. So again, that's what I kind of lean towards, but it doesn't have to be. We could really run it to whichever way we want to. So let's look at the A gap. Now we can run this out of any, well, really it'd be out of I formation, excuse me. So let's move this over, and it doesn't have to be out of I formation, but that's more than likely when we're going to have that, because the P back is the lead back, and obviously we want the P back on the same side as the running back. So ISO is just kind of big on big, and I realize I got him a little too tight. All right, essentially big on big. So boom, I got my guy. Boom, got my guy here. 3 tech, kick him out, and then these two got the combo block. So that combo is going to go to the backside linebacker. And then the play side linebacker is going to be for the lead blocker, which would be the P back. So he's going to come there, boom. And then obviously we're just going to run the ball through the A gap. ISO. So again, like I said, combo blocks are different than a zone combo. We got to secure that guy first. And if you watch teams, I'm thinking of my Bears specifically, but if you watch teams that really don't have a good run game, a lot of times it's because they're not good at getting combo blocks. So if everything works, now look, if you got, I don't know, Vita Vea, Sexy Dexy here, and we can't work our way to the second level, that is what it is. You gotta secure the first level first on a combo block. But just to say that if everything goes well, but you don't get that guy blocked, you got a free guy to make a tackle, and that is what causes a lot of issues that you see when you watch the NFL. Now, look, you get a hat on the hat in this ISO game here, you still could get a good run, especially if this guy's not a downhill guy. But if he is, then it's just going to limit how big this run can be. Obviously, if you work it out correctly and you get a combo all the way up to here, seal him off, then you got a third level run. You could talk about a possible explosive. So that a lot of times, that combo block a lot of times is the sole reason that you see runs really fail. All right, so again, we could run that to the open A gap. We could go I over here, run it to the open B gap, and it'll be essentially the same play. And yeah, so ISO is pretty simple. Now, the cool part is quarterback ISO. That's the cool part because, obviously we got a lead blocker with our regular ISO, but with quarterback ISO, now we got two lead blockers, or potentially, I wouldn't say two lead blockers, but we could go wherever we want. Because the quarterback is down the middle of the formation, we could go wherever we want without tipping our hand. So now the way that I learned ISO, or not the way I learned it, but the way we ran it the first place that I coached, and I really like it that way, is we run it as a draw play. And that does a couple things. And I don't mean like a super long draw play. It's just a slight hesitation, and then we run the ball. So for here, we're running through the open B gap. So ISO left, whatever. So we're running through the open B gap. So the P back's the lead block. I could do something different, but how I have it right now is the second back, the weak side back, is going to help on the edge, just in case we got any monsters on DN or anything like that, just to make sure we're not getting killed that way. But we do got that second blocker here. So the coaching point for this is pretend like you about to throw a now screen. Like this receiver, which is part of actually we haven't got to the pass game, but we'll talk about that. So, like this receiver just turns around right now and looks for the ball. Almost pretend like you're doing that. That's the motion. So you get the ball, you look, cock the arm, and then you bring it down and you run your play. And so what it does is it gives your lead blocker, time to get up on the linebackers. And then, of course, it freezes the second level defenders. Sometimes it freezes the first level defenders too, where they're getting ready to run to the ball. Either way, you give that slight misdirection, that slight hesitation of the linebackers. You give your blocker time to get up there, and then you just go. And we can get to this from any formation, and that's the cool part. So again, split backfield is nice, but we could do this out of off. I mean, it'd be just as good, if not better. We can do this from our I formation. We could do it that way. And then you saw our gator. That's where it's really cool, because if we get into this gator formation and run ISO, it doesn't matter where I run. What I would do here, the coaching point, that double team is going to stay. That double team is going to stay on that guy, and then we're just going to have both our backs. Well, he would have to slide over. Both our backs are going to just lead up to the linebackers. So, boom, there you go. So now we get to secure the first level, and we get to have second level blockers. ISO. QB ISO. Yeah, that's it. Pretty straightforward. So those are the main core plays. You got the ISO, the inside zone, the outside zone, power G, and the variations from those. So I would say those are the ones we have to walk in day one, every day at camp. Throughout summer, we have to learn those plays inside and out, and we got to learn them against different formations. Now, it'll take even longer for me to show you all the different formations and defensive fronts, so I'm not going to do that. But yeah, just kind of give you the idea. So I will give you, I'll give you a couple more. I'll give you a couple more. These aren't what I would consider core, but these are in the repertoire. So one that I absolutely love is A Trap, is what I'm calling it. So sometimes you see it called zero trap for whatever reason. It's not always a zero, so I don't know. I get technical about that. But we're gonna call this A trap because we're gonna trap to the A gap defender. And the reason I say that again because it shouldn't matter if you are coaching it correctly, run game. It shouldn't matter the formation. If you design a run and the rules correctly, it should work against whatever the alignment or the front of the defense. Excuse me. All right. So A trap. What is A trap? A trap. We are going to kick out the edges. Trying to see. Yeah, we're in the right spot. We're gonna kick out the edges. We're gonna kick out the B gap defender, or not even kick out, but one-on-one base block. Try to kick him out, and we're trapping this guy. So we could make this visually for you. We're trapping the A gap defender. The P back is going to do the trapping. So guess what these guys get to do? Go straight up to the linebackers. And I told you before, these types of traps are becoming popular again in the league. It's not new, but it is becoming popular again. So then they go straight to the linebackers, leave that guy, and the P back comes across, boom, kicks him out. And then we're going to run this towards the open B gap. Now, obviously, it depends on that collision, but that's the running back's job to really decipher. He might come down this way, crash, and really get knocked out. It'll hit up there, but whatever. We're going to run to the open space. So that's A trap. Really enjoy that. And again, remember, keep in mind, scouting, matchups, personnel. If you got a dude, as they say, you got a Vita Vea, whatever, you might maybe not be great at running trap. But sometimes it just depends. I remember we played this team, and I don't know if this kid went on to play D1. He might have. But they had this nose who was a stud. Like, big dude, like 6'3", 300 pounds. Just really big. And yeah, he messed up a lot of stuff, but I think the trap worked on him because he wasn't super explosive. He was just kind of in the way. And when you run a trap, you don't have to drive this guy. You don't have to knock him out. You really just got to seal him off because you're freeing up these two to go to the linebackers. That's the biggest thing. So now that he's unblocked, you just got to seal him off so he doesn't disrupt the run. You don't really have to ear hole him. So there, it depends. But they might, especially in high school. I'm sure a lot of y'all play high school probably saw where they got a really small nose tackle that's like a wrestler or something, and he's like super fast. So you might be like, hey, he's too fast to trap, or you might be like, hey, he flies up the field so fast. We'll be able to ear hole him with our P back and just completely wipe him out. So it just depends. But I like A trap. I think especially if the angles are right. So out of off, the angle is perfect. The angle is absolutely perfect. And then we could ear hole him. I mean, then be the same thing if we were running it out of the I formation, where we could then kick him out from there. So that's A trap. Pretty simple, actually. So our other trap is the C trap, and it's really a counter. So I would say you saw both of these plays against, for the Bears fans. You saw that from the Cardinals when we played them. So let me see. Yeah, this is what I want to do. All right, so C trap, we're going to be trapping the DN. That's our trapper. our our target right now. So then everybody essentially, I don't want to say blocks back, but kind of. So if it's a 3 tech here, boom, we on the double team. The center's going to block back onto the 1 tech. Tackle backside will block back. And then we're going to pull our backside guard to trap. And then we're also going to pull the P back as a second person. So actually this probably should be out of I formation. And so the first, as I said, the first puller, his job is to trap the end. And then the second one is going to lead up as a lead blocker. Obviously, if the DN wrecks it and the P-back has to stay in to help contain that, then we don't have a lead blocker, but still, that's the same thought process. So ideally, what will happen is the P-back will end up getting this backer, and this double team should combo back to the backside backer. So the play side backer should be for the P-back, and they should combo and be able to cut off this backside backer, and then we go that way. That's what you would hope. Now, again, like we saw with the Cardinals, you could do it that way. You could do it a couple different ways. You could have their aiming point be for the play side backer. You could have your backside tackle go straight to the backside backer, and then the P-back would be for the third level defender. So in that case, you could run it where it's kind of like a fake read, where especially if you got the quarterback like Kyler Murray, where you could hold that backside DN because he's staying for the quarterback threat. So you could do that. Yeah, that's probably not the way I would do it, just because I don't like the angles of that. And there's a lot that can go wrong with that. I like the angle of this combo because you're already in front of the linebacker. You're where he wants to go. So I like the idea of combo into there. And then just kick that end out. And then the P-back will be for whoever is the first to show. So that's C-trap. A-trap, C-trap. Man, we got bug sweep, we got thunder. I'm gonna stop it right there, man. We might bring some of that stuff later, but those are some of the main run plays right there. So next up after this will be the pass game. We'll look at our core pass plays, and yeah, we'll go from there. So again, thank you for listening. Go to the comments section, give me your thoughts, share it around, get the conversation started, and thanks for listening.